will be shortly.
Right, yeah, she thought that.
We're gonna have to put a little something to share with you guys. But I don't want to do it.
You're good to go, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Glad to see you all here tonight. And we'll get started. We'll call the meeting to order. And, you have everybody counted for. I guess we have a quorum. We have everybody here. Brad, no visitors. Is there anybody has if you've all had a chance to the agenda, has anybody got a conflict of interest declaration they'd like to make prior to starting? No. Okay. You've all had a chance to look at the agenda. If you agree or you have any questions or anything. I had someone move that we adopt the agenda as presented. Thank you. Second. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The adoption of the minutes of the board meeting August 24, 2023. I'll have a chance to review those and there's no questions or comments. If I could have someone move that those minutes be adopted as presented. Harvey, who was seconded. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. I have no business arising from the previous minutes. Anybody here have something they'd like to bring from the previous minutes before we move on? Okay. Nothing under new business. Would anybody like to bring up anything under new business? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move into committee and staff reports. We'll start off with the economic development briefing, and Charlene, you'll do that for us. Thank you.
So I'm just going to give you an update on Q3 activities and what's coming up for the fourth quarter, economic workforce development. So first, talk about something is the workforce development strategy. This has been a big piece of work over the summer and finishing up over the fall. The activities are mainly consist of data collection and analysis. We've been working on a survey for employers and employees that goes out in the middle of this week. So I'm sure some of you will see that. Stakeholder engagement is happening in October and November. The firm Stiletto is going to come virtually for you guys to get some feedback for the whole meeting in November on the 9th. And the final strategy with the action plan is scheduled to be completed in December. So we have a project steering committee that we're just going to run things by. NBCC is on there, which is great, to try and coordinate the workforce activities. Opportunities for us at working in Brunswick, COA, and Ray is there from the community development perspective.
Could you? The microphone can pick you up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And so the goal of the strategy, understand the current labor market and the forecast for future requirements. Match up course needs with NBCC training. So we've had a good conversation with NBCC around that, and they are on board with essentially matching up what we need with the course, which is excellent. They're also looking at alternate ways of delivering training. So they're, that could look like evening training, it could look like in-house, depending on what's needed. They're really flexible, which is great. The overall outcome is an action plan with practical tools that we can actually use to help both employers and employees. So again, this company that's doing this work has done similar work in 3 other regions. And so far it's working well. So we're we're hopeful that we're going to get a good product. So that's the workforce development strategy. And like I said, you'll hear more about that in November. This is daily ongoing activities. So immigration and HR support as well as training. That's contracted work that we pay for and coordinate. Q4, we supported about 24 businesses in one or all of those buckets. And Q3, or sorry, that was Q3, Q4, we're going to work on the contract in 2024. So that's really going to be based on what the needs were for this year and also what comes out of the strategy for how we need to get for next year. Connecting businesses with community, or connecting with the business community, sorry, with funding support. So in Q3, we supported 4 businesses or connected them with other funding agencies and supports. And in Q4, it's again, a big piece of communication. The business community doesn't understand that we're here yet and what we provide. Not only that, there's so many players in the area in terms of funders and agencies, and it's really a big communication effort that we're going to undertake in Q4. And then collaborating with other regional partners, and that's ongoing. So we're currently meetings with all of our partners, the Chambers of Commerce, Future St. Stephen, working in Brunswick, BU, etc. So we've been working on some event planning for 2024 as well as 2023. So there was recently a recruitment and retention lunch and learn with the keynote speaker in St. Andrews. That was just last week. So that was the HR community from the region that attended, and a few other businesses as well as the chambers. That was well attended and really well received. And we're also working with the Multicultural Association. That's for the Youth Opportunities Expo happening October 10th in St. Andrews at the Algonquin. That's going to be a great event. They're looking at, I believe it's all grade 11 and 12 students from around the region that are being sent to St. Andrews for the event. And their target is to have 50 employers set up to showcase what career options are available in the region. The job fairs will be in the spring. There's the one that's been recurring out of St. Stephen, that one again. And then St. Andrews added one last year that will probably happen again because they have specific needs, and they actually had a really good turnout and really good outcomes from that job fair specifically. We're open to looking at other ones as needed, but it's based on the need from the employer side. And then for June next year, we are planning a regional business summit. So this image is of the New Brunswick Business Growth Summit. That's happening around the province now. There's 2 happening in November. So this is an event similar to that. There's one in St. John that we'll go to November 29th to kind of see what we can use and what we want to do on our own. But we're working with the Eastern Charlotte Chamber is actually the applicant. Our partners at PHRS, they're heavily involved, and all the other chambers also working with us on planning that event. And that's going to be at the Algonquin in June. And then I'm also working with the 3 larger chambers on their educational events because they have a lot coming up about around HR. And so we're coordinating what that training looks like and helping them out, finding speakers for them and venues and all that, just trying to make it a little easier to get access to the business community. So those are the events upcoming. As I mentioned, Q4 is going to be a lot of communications. We've set up social now and in time to get the survey disseminated next week and get that out to everybody. So based on that as well, we want to make sure that we have all our funding partners and programs, training events, all of that on our website. And also in Q4, data collection dissemination will start on the website itself. And we want to start working on the regional site selection tool. So that's for investment attraction piece. And I'll be working with the municipalities to get input on that. So it's basically whatever land for assets that are open to development, and that was the site selection tool. And finally, just a note on this. This is another piece of work that we look after. So we have a labor market partnership forum that is set up with us and the funding partners. And there was a regional company that closed in the last few weeks, and there was 30 employees that were impacted by that. So I worked with Working MD and others to make sure we got hold of the actual company to get messages to the employees, to let them know there's supports available and what that looks like. We've had weekly touch points with them to find out that, make sure everybody's got what they need, and connecting them to other companies. On the flip side of that, the good news is we have welcomed a new regional company. And they're starting in November. They're hiring 35 employees in November, with more slated to start next year. So a bit of a wash numbers wise, but obviously not so much for those impacted employees. So that's what's happening just in terms of employment numbers this quarter. And yeah, that's what I have for an update. Questions?
So when a major company shuts down in the area, you'll be able to help the employees.
Yeah,
That's what you're
that's
trying
right.
to say.
That's right.
So how do you find out about that?
So it's being a spam. This one happened on Facebook.
Anything else?
There was an employee that was locked out that morning that we found out within an hour. And I just started going calls and got a hold of the company in another province. Confirmed that yes, it was closing, and then asked how we could get messages to these. And they were really good about getting them to them.
So
Yes.
they give you a list of all the employees.
They didn't give me the list. I worked through them to get the message to the employees. And then we had confirmation because one or two of them told me directly, and then they work with our employment counselors through Working MD and St. Stephen. So they're supporting about half of them right now. The other ones haven't reached out. So it's up to them whether they want to reach out. About half of them have so far.
Now, without divulging any important, with a lot of the ones on the left-hand side, be able to go to the right-hand side.
In theory, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're hopeful about that. Yes. So if you were going to apply right away, and if they don't, the one on the right is going to have more jobs, I'm sure, and hopefully those other ones will be able to get in that, if not now.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you never know what's going to happen with companies in our area, what businesses want to turn into.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's more support that can be added if needed, if the number was higher, if it was a different type of position. There's different things we can look at for employees. So
it's good to know.
Yeah.
So how do we get this stuff out in the public a little better? Like we said about that, a lot of people don't know. If we had this tonight, we wouldn't have known what you've been doing kind of thing.
So we're, like I said, social's just set up, social media and the website. So the next 3 months is going to be heavy on getting out all the events that we're putting out and the survey coming through. The communication around the survey, there's 2 surveys, one for employers, one for employees, or prospective employees as well. We want everybody to complete that survey. So we're going to be pushing out and through our partners. We're going to rely on their chambers and municipalities to push things as well. So I think that'll help, but no, you're right. It'll take time, but we're going to start pushing it this fall.
And we got Bonnie with a question there.
Thanks. My question is, when you're listing off some of the partners, I noticed the focus is a lot on chambers of commerce and things like that. We don't have an established chamber here on the island. I know talking to some other areas, they don't either. How are you reaching out to areas where maybe there isn't an established framework in place to make sure that those parts of the region are covered as well?
Yeah, so for you, Bonnie, in particular, I've been speaking with Jillian of the Eastern Charlotte Chamber. And I know that she's been in touch with you a couple of times, and we actually intend to get you guys this fall to come over and meet with whoever you would like to for your business community. But my understanding was that they were helping support some of your businesses, and I'm not sure what that level is, but that's something we can speak through. It's more of a communication touch point. It could be individual because if that's necessary. But it is just a communication touch point in each community. But I hear what you're saying, and that's on our list is directly getting in touch with you guys on the islands and seeing how you support it.
Good, John.
Just one more. The new company that came in.
Yeah.
How were you made aware of that? Did they get a hold of you ahead of time to ask her? Or
That was an interesting one.
don't tell the Facebook.
No. And actually, we met with OMB, also with OMB yesterday, and talked about this because they were OMB in Fredericton, and that is supposed to trigger a contact with us.
Right.
We would bring our other partners so that this company would only have to meet once or twice. That didn't happen. They were given both sites to look at. The site worked out down here. And it ended up being word of mouth essentially. And then we ended up getting a meeting with them, put them in touch with who they'd be put in touch with.
Mhm.
So for the company, it was unfortunate because they had to meet with 4 or 5 different times to get everything that they needed to get. But OMB has taken that back to correct that process in Fredericton. We're not sure who or how it happened, but ideally, a lot of people, their first touch point for businesses is OMB. And so when that happens, and again, this is news, the communication piece is still ongoing, they actually send it to the regional service through them, say, contact so-and-so, when I would call and working in the OMB and all the other partners for one meeting, and that we all sit down and service them together. Yeah. Yeah, but this one ended up being a bit of a runaround. But it worked in the end. He might have lost a couple of months on this development side, but it worked out.
Okay. Any other questions, Colin? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So next I have tourism and recreation. Sure.
So what I'd like to talk to you today is a little bit of an update on what has happened since the strategy's been endorsed, but spending a little bit more time on what to expect in the latter half of the year. I will also touch briefly on recreation and a little bit on the coastal lake trip. So for the 2023 tourism exploitation plan, once that strategy was completed, I had gone out and the first deliverable was to get the branding and creative agency out. So RFPs were issued for that. And I had also prepared the 2024 marketing plan for purposes, started communicating what that plan is going to look like to a lot of the stakeholders are going to have an important part of delivering this plan. And so, you know, on the day-to-day, very much what Charlene's doing, it's connecting people, informing, and that's been ongoing. Now, when we look at the next few months and what that looks like, we really have 3 main milestones that we need to deliver. So branding, website, campaign planning, and then the launch. So I had hoped for a launch in January. It might be a late January now, but the goal is still that we're having a launch in January of 2024. The branding exercise that's officially kicked off right now. So I've onboarded the new agency. We are starting with discovery sessions with the agencies. There's one coming up on October 3rd with the tourism committee, and then the October 12th committee, the whole meeting, they're going to host a discovery session with you as well. And that's more so to just gain insights and feedback on what you think, you know, all those insights that they are going to pull together to help us shape new brand. October 12th. So no, who is it? I'm going to get into it. And so really the main goal out of this exercise is that we're reinventing our Southwest region in a very highly competitive market right now. So right now we all know that everybody in the region is has this new tourism mandate. So we need to, you know, work on identifying a brand that's going to help us stand out. With the website, going to happen in tandem with the branding exercise, and really that's going to help us really bring that story to life, creative storytelling and creative content. Then we're going to roll to the campaign planning steps, and this is where we're going to use multi-channels to really communicate the new brand and introduce it to everybody. This is going to be in various formats. That's part of the marketing plan. And then when we launch, the ultimate goal is that we're inspiring people to do something they didn't know they needed or they wanted to do. It's not working. There we go. Okay. So the goal is that Southwest New Brunswick is the perfect destination for families and seniors who crave authentic journeys and genuine encounters. They just don't know it yet. So we're going to be taking this journey with, it's called Fish Out of Water Design. They are experts in brand development, reimagining old brands and helping them become more relevant and very competitive. So this is why we chose them. We thought they really had a good understanding of how to pull all of the dynamic intricacies of our region into something that's so us. And the main goal is that they're going to help us walk visitors or potential visitors through a journey on, making that decision to come here and sifting through why come to our region and then stay longer, because that was the goal. We want them to get on the radar, have the decision to stay here, and then keep them longer. So they're going to help us get there. So this is a lot of information, but I just want you to kind of understand that touch points. So and we have a touch point on October 12th for the brand strategy. That's phase 1 on the left-hand side. Once we through phase 1, which includes strategy, identity, design, I will be providing you guys regular touch point feedback. I'm not asking you to really do much of the work of anything, but we want to make sure that we're on the right path. When we look onto the far right and the top, there's some more items there. This is sort of the touch points or decision points that the committee going to help us out with. And so this is really an opportunity where we're helping shape and identify what that looks like for the region as a whole, and making sure that the voice of each of the regions is heard and represented in the way that they want to be represented. And then on the bottom, those are all the other touch points and decision points that we're going to disseminate, organize, and bring to the table. So expect at least 2 more touch points with the word for the brand strategy, and we will likely be informing you guys of how that final, like when we're getting close to that website, we'll give you a chance to look at that, make sure that we haven't missed anything. And then on the campaign plan and the design as well, just sharing what we're doing, but we intend to work very closely. That's what I had for tours. But there's day to day, there's a lot going on, but I really want to kind of walk you through sort of what we're going to be walking through here in the next weeks. Any questions?
Yeah, you said you're gonna meet on October 12th, is that the?
That's right, the committee of the
committee,
whole.
the committee, that is the tourism committee, right?
No, it's not the tourism, but members of the tourism committee are going to be to it because
Okay, that's why I wanted to- they may ask me.
Yeah, there was, but it was nearly impossible to get everybody to
Oh,
work
yeah.
on a date. So I thought I told Thomas I'd like to borrow some time.
We haven't discussed this yet, but at our next committee whole meeting, I'd like to invite the branding company for a little piece of it to go through that, so that everybody's informed and knows what's going on.
The other question I had was the fish agency, where are they from?
They're out of just outside of Ottawa.
So we had nothing in New Brunswick?
There was nothing in New Brunswick. There are exclusivity contracts with certain organizations like Explorer and John. And the other agencies were priced out of.
Part of the problem is there's 12 regions doing this.
All things on.
That drives the price up, bringing in business.
Yeah.
If you want to, you gotta pay for it.
I see Brad had a statement there. He's thinking after the tourism season winds down a little bit, it'd be a little easier to get people together. Is that why we're looking at October 12th as the season wound down by then?
Yes, it was nearly impossible to try. Schedules.
But we want something out there for January when people are planning.
Exactly.
All right, so the past few months have been laying the groundwork for the year one of implementation strategy. A lot of that focus has been on the existing reimagining access to sport recreation laser project happening with the UNC. That project had been underway for quite some time already, and it was interesting because they are essentially reverse engineering that project. So typically you would say that it would be from maybe a more formal organization, come up with an idea, figuring out the prototypes and the plans, and then trickling it down to see how it worked with. So this one was reverse engineered, where they did all the work with the equity owed residents of the region, pulled back some recommendations, and then worked it back up with, here's some prototypes we think might work. And now we're in a phase where they're looking to pilot out 3 prototypes in our region and 1 in RSC 2. And so those prototypes are going to happen in Eastern Shore, St. Andrews, and St. Stephen. And that was by default. I think there's opportunity for more prototypes to happen throughout the region, but those were the first 3 to 5 as opportunities. And so those are still in the, I would call it the development phase. So they have the idea or the topic of what they want to see happen. And now I've been brought in to help them facilitate it. And there's a lot of parts. So for example, see that this is going to be a project where it involves the elementary, the East Skating Club, the Garcelon Civic Center, and we'll help facilitate it from there. So a few items there. In Eastern Charlotte, it's going to involve the Cultural Association, a lot of outdoor recreation providers, Parks NB, ourselves, and obviously the municipality, and hopefully many members from really year-round, trying to connect residents within the community. And then in St. Andrews, again, it's outdoor focus. I'm getting feedback there. Okay. So anyways, so coming up, 3 projects that are going to be tested out. We're taking the learnings back, see how they work, and then we will group and look at really prototyping in different parts of the region, so the islands and then more rural communities also identified. So we'll be looking to prototypes, but that's been happening already. When it comes to the infrastructure asset and the needs assessment, that one was for the most part relatively done, but it was the access to waterways, which is something that I had never really collected the data on. So it's been collecting information and making touch points and connections to get that information ready to work on for next year. A lot of the work with communication awareness. So again, identifying those gaps and challenges and meeting, connecting with people to inform them of what's happening and coming down the road. And then the policy review, whether it's internal, external. And so what I mean by external is the Anglophone South School District access to community spaces and the fields. And so understanding what's happening right now in our region. But also I've noted when I was looking at Anglophone South, and there's the new LC 713 that also changed portions of how the Education Council functions and how decisions are made. So that's actually all in. It's changed from what it had in the past. So I need to have an opportunity to sit down with the superintendent of ASDS. And again, just understand that new decision process, because what had happened in the past might not necessarily be status quo for now. And they do have some internal policies as well that need to be updated and changed or in flux.
You say that we're talking about going into gymnasiums and things like that from the public and using those assets? Because I know there was issues and I tried to, I think it was on Grand Island, or was it Campbell?
We had one at one time, but we haven't really channel. I get it straightened out, but yeah.
Okay.
And I know you guys are still looking into it, right?
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask. You go ahead.
Yeah.
And
So, yeah, no, there was an issue. We had developed contracts in our community and the schools. And we should have a number of communities. Well, yeah, I knew there was a problem there, but I didn't realize what was 713. Yeah.
Because of how decision with the distribution council and how first
has that actually gone through it? I thought they held it up.
they held off, so lots of talks right now, right? So it's just kind of getting informed and aware, identifying what could change, what impact some of those kind of issues that we identify.
When we dig into the school things,
Yeah.
I think we all need to be on the, like, they've got a great program. But we weren't allowed to use that program because it was you're on a different school district though, right?
I don't think so.
No, but I'm pretty sure you guys were like the people in the West Shopman, it's a lot better than what we got.
Question for you.
Yeah.
You have a contract in place with the district?
So that we,
How long ago?
oh, we've had that. It's been long.
Like years? Yeah, okay, okay, all right. 'Cause I
You
don't
guys
think-
know.
Yeah, they wouldn't even try to get deals.
And we did, ours is just a year old.
So I wonder, because we were just gonna hold community day at camp, so on. But we had an agreement on the school, use the fields and all outside facility. But couldn't go inside because it was.
Pay for
the janitor or whatever.
So you-
Which we were to do.
So you still can't, you're actually still be able to without the contract. But it's easier with the contract. And if I can get ours and send it to you if you want me to. I mean,
But it's
it was
good.
the last one down. It's not as good as theirs.
There's a lot of
Theirs
use.
Yours is working.
It's
it works, but I mean, I know you guys don't have to pay rent sometimes, like you go off the wells. And stuff like that, and, but I offer.
Going through that, it would be like a flat hour.
We're not doing that for all the. I mean, you guys, they got it off.
Or even if it's just
Yeah.
understanding why there's such quality. And why it can't be the same all across.
So I'm just thinking if it's better than some else's and we want one, they want one, and you're, and we're doing this, you could kind of.
I hate,
But take the best.
I hate staying on it, it all comes down to your principal.
And I think if you're pulling it west, is that right? You in the not south. We're in the south, right here in west.
Yeah,
That-
maybe
There's
that's
some
why.
straight there.
But there should be.
It should be like that.
So what is policy? You said there's policy. What is the policy?
Well, the old policy was that
Let's review
it
that.
went, so this is what I had to kind of get.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
it was that the district education council sort of the measures and policies and guidelines for each region and
Right.
superintendent on that. And then at the end of the day, it all boiled down to ultimately though, that the principal, is able to ensure that, I guess their students have sort of first priority. That's the way the policy currently reads, but what we're hearing from a lot of communities is that that's not happening, right? So there's that, and then the contract side of things, also this is different from community to community. But the policy is saying that it should be, that's how I'm interpreting, and this is why I need an opportunity to sit down with them and really examine what they're intending, because there's the Education Act, they've written out the new guidelines and then these new proposed policies that are really contentious right now are sort of paused. Sitting down and understanding how does that impact the decisions that are being made for some of these issues that we're facing and accessing and using our community tools and assets.
So it's like Mayor Matthews said, this comes down to the principal. Has to play ball.
That's what happened
That's
with
right.
that. Do you want a copy of that too? Just give me something to go by.
Yes. Yeah, if I could get all the copies.
There's real good, trust me, I've read them all, from one province to the other, and there's the best as far as I'm concerned.
That's good enough.
And
Yours was done, they actually have a person to write that in the West, and we don't up there.
Mayor Craig, did Eastern Charlotte have any success with getting contracts?
I don't think they have. I don't think they have any success. I'll check it out tomorrow.
I think that they're widest, I'm not sure.
Okay. I know Derek O'Brien was well. Yeah.
I know I said mine dad, and our dad, and he was.
Okay, you said that. Okay.
Yeah, since that's why I thought that maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I'll-
Is this an issue right across the problem?
All of them. So it's not just Southwest,
So it becomes more of a political issue.
right, so, but we're gonna see what we identify and how we can, improve that.
In the defense of any phones.
Yeah.
And get whatever the other angle, or districts are. Is it a budget item that they don't have and the other ones are getting?
Well, this is why we sit down
It still shouldn't be any different ones, I don't care.
and how
And it shouldn't be a principle either, stating that we don't want principle on board, but one person can't say one thing here and there, it's just saying. Province and what?
Yeah, just like Matthews said, is that would probably short, but go on.
Yeah.
Could have been, he could have been on board and said, let's just keep this.
You
Didn't know, but I mean, let's just, so we don't get into a contract.
You already take care of the field, right?
No,
but you was.
we were.
So if you slice, you should be getting you shouldn't have to pay to go in, right?
But yeah, it should be the same process. Not go each and
We
every
prefer to have a contract in place, whether it's or not, we'd like to have it in place for both sides.
Excellent.
Liability. and all
Yes,
that.
exactly.
So this is why we need to sit down, because I'm hearing the one side, and so now I need to have an opportunity to sit down. So this is just what I've been trying to be patient and understand. But I'm digging into it to try and get a better understanding. That's the one thing. And then our internal policies, just around the cost sharing and that's when I find out recreation strategy on how to review it. So that's something to come in year one. I haven't done a lot of work on it, so we just finished budget, but I intend to, that's something tabled and revisit it here. So those are sort of the 4 pillars that I will be focusing on from a recreation standpoint, both from recreation strategy. And part of that, as I mentioned before, it's really just mapping these connections on how to. This is that some of those that I have been with partners. So Brunswick, the province and various departments, whether it be tourism or arts or there's various functions there. Christian B, Y, State Waterway, associations. This is exactly what the organization I'm making connections with to move it forward. And what I see happening next, the record committee is, as I have that all mapped out, again, we talked about define which one we want to do. Map all of and suspect to reconnect over. Again, so we can kind of move into the winter when things slow down to start laying the That's what I have for recreation. Any questions? Okay. The trail, this one. So this one, quite a bit of time has been dedicated to this project. Majority of it has been dedicated to Spruce Lake and getting that project constructed off the ground. So the grade shoreline section done. I'm ready to go for the on-road connection from Spruce Lake to the official trailhead. That was like the most important piece for us right there. But there's a strike in St. John. It's causing some issues with permit. So I'm just not, but hopefully that resolves soon and we can get this project all wrapped up and done.
We can't catch him either. Not giving a person out of looking for.
Oh my gosh. No, well, I thought about it. We'll make sure it's on it. Another big thing was, and I'm really excited to start working on it, in the next section, which is undoors through the must-wash estuary. So we have some direction from Capital on preferred routes. There was about 4 different routes that we were contemplating. When we found out about the new reform, I was like, we should just make sure that we wanted to work with them to understand which one they thought would add the best value. And so where we're at right now is I've secured some funding from ACOA and the Department of Tourism and Culture to advance doing all the studies of engineering, environmental assessments, and all the stakeholder engagements needed to assess how we can make a probably quite spectacular crossing through that section leading into our region from Slick. And that is it. Make it sound like that's it, but there's a lot happening too. The paint for the lake, we're also going to be working on finishing up the last bit of waypoint for the road trail in George. And St. Francis for registering them. So we'll have by the end of this year, every community fish online data and other with the shores in the near future.
People off the path. I was gonna say, you're gonna build a terrace.
Tell me about it. I was following that.
You know, that's true. We were doing work. Old scopes. Communities that we can access it. It's a staff.
Mike, I guess, question, on that, when you start, like what's the timeline roughly, and will there be community engagement, or is that?
There's an,
Stuff like a.
We're gonna do all this engagement, and the vision or path of vision is that council be involved and that it has capacity permits, but it's our goal to host all of the communities engaged and all of the other.
Do you have a timeline saying it will be done?
Have a timeline, you know what time is, it just gets a little bit.
You want to know when to set up.
That's where I'm going on the other side.
I was just waiting for special.
Yeah.
It would be. All the process passed. It's my path.
Was what this council if my words.
Yeah, it's gonna be incredible. But yeah, just it's my own internal capacity and just. He said, I'm gonna have it done next time.
Maybe you're glad to stay, but are you gonna cross the, like, my sport out? Are you going, well, the park home has all kinds of floats that they weren't allowed to use, maybe you could buy them.
You know,
They got in trouble, they didn't get the right, they didn't do the right. They didn't do the right things, and they, anyway, they weren't allowed to put theirs in.
Or buy them.
well, yeah.
And in St. Andrews, they only sell it for vehicles. I mean, I could do, or either they want to have there, I don't know if you're-
Have that, and it's finite, it's not, we do, and.
It's nice to know if there's fish flash around the region that might be used, so that's good.
Well, I think what's shutting them out.
If there's nothing else on this one, thank you very much to both of you for giving us your time and your briefing. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is the CPO report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll go over some of the highlights that are in my report, lots of picture, things like that, there's some supplementary. Unfortunately, the landfill I had my takes to where we are with. So waste was up in August over previous year. Not sure what it's happening, there is a particular project that had a lot of waste and wasn't anything he could put his finger on, so not sure why it was. It was just an anomaly. We are right around where we were in 2020 with the total waste. So it's not a bad thing. 2022 obviously a lot higher. That's when we were going up with a lot of our foreign waste. Our recycling diversion is right around 12% where it has been, so that hasn't changed at all. We did our white goods program for this year, and we picked up 606 appliances this year. We were able to recycle those and evacuate Freon from anything that was refrigerated. So that's good, strong. They were quite busy picking up appliances this year. We did our first annual household hazardous waste day at the landfill. We did a number of tours out there, and a bunch of people brought out some stuff. The point to that is education of the public, household hazardous waste, why it's hazardous, why you dispose properly. You know, why you shouldn't try to set the landfill on fire, it's just throwing in garbage, things like that. So there was a turnout of people. It wasn't a huge crowd, but this is our first year, and it's been the water. We got some injury to get us, so we're gonna make it a fair deal next year. That's doors and things like that. So the plant department, as is, they have just been flat a third year in a row. So far this year, over 13 million in employment issued in the region. We've opened 118 in food costs. We closed for those with permits. We're on other things we've been taking down. We've started into dangerous site management with a couple of our municipalities, and so far we could probably do a lot if we really wanted to. We need to kind of keep a space on that. There's a lot of work to that. We replaced junior planner that we lost, but somebody else who also a planning assistant and now assistant, because of the amount of volume of work organization that goes into those files is significant. So this we're doing a bang up just far. Our website that we reimagined that we're seeing very strong traffic on a regular basis. Half the traffic comes from search engine, half from other links. Some of it comes from the media. That's news because the front page has a lot of information front, which is useful. The most part pages, no surprise, with the election calendar, your application page, laws, regulations, and information on recycling, which is outside of the page. In community development, we've got several points that have been identified and we got funded. And this is the action 2024. I've got some of the CEO report. And finally, just a reminder, the fall fair, I mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting, but we're there this week. We have here more residents than we normally do. And if you recall back a while back, we talked about some public, a public fair kind of thing. Things, I mean, we've been drinking from the fire hose all year, a lot of stuff. So the fall fair presented a good opportunity to get a lot of traffic, exposure to a lot of people. We had fun the whole event ourselves. So that's what we're setting up this week. That is it.
Any questions for all this?
The hack application, any idea, what idea to hear about those? Or is there a time? Maybe I asked on this, but.
You're pressing the wrong person.
But you look, I took it as that.
However,
If you anything at all, it's very important to get to.
yeah,
Exactly.
I received yesterday, there's a fund come through for housing needs, and it's the holes that doesn't cover. So it's going to be, it's available, it can be applied to by, it can be applied by municipalities visually, or it can be like by NGOs and profits. It's not a huge pot of money, it's money there for doing things like if you need to do an injury study of a site, things. So that money is, there is money able to do that, which is helpful. It's not actual capital infrastructure. I think that's what it's supposed to be infrastructure. But that's what those installers is so for. This proposal over the gaps. It's in draft right now. That's I just received in draft form. And more information on right. Yeah, probably having the equipment.
Which is you don't know. That's okay. You can make
No, I'd be horrible.
Any other question on the EO report? Okay. We'll move on to the financial.
Probably most relevant document would be the summary of statement. Prepared. I'm not going to go through that line here, but we are on track on our budget. Revenue looks like it's higher, and that's because there's some government funding that came through, so it looks like some things are a lot larger than what they really are, because that was money that flowed through, especially in the community development. Nothing that I can see that would be out of here to call your attention to. As I said, on budget more or less, and we're beneath where we need to be. What the target number you're looking for on that percentage of annual budget, where it's the end of August, 66% of the year. Some things are over because they're front end loaded. Again, some things like in the development looks like we're terrible at spending money there. That's really just because we'll through a bunch of government money through there. We'll see. If there's any questions on this, I can certainly answer them a little later. You can always you can contact me anytime if you had any specific about anything. But if there was something out of the ordinary, I would call your into it, but there really isn't. Good.
Any comments? Okay, any comments? The next, before I go to the next meeting schedule and that, I just go around, just make sure there's nothing else anybody else wants to bring. Anything anybody wants to bring up? Next scheduled regular meeting is October 26th. And we should have a working session before then, October. Sorry, I didn't see that. October. Everybody okay with those dates? I know where.
The Thursday, right?
Yeah, 20th of October. Okay, any questions from the public?
No, Mr. Chair, no questions.
Okay. There being nothing else, I will take a motion to adjourn. Meeting is
Please notice
adjourned.
in Germany, the regular session, there's a closed session that can be following.
Oh.